English wasn't that common in the 19th century. From the perspective of literature, we had a few writers. We had Bankim Chandra, we had Toru Dutt, and we had people like Lal Bihari Dey. But they were very early experiments. All of those writers were multilingual, and they were writing in English as part of their experiment with modern forms, such as the novel. I would say that English became Indian more in the 20th century, and certainly that's been something we've seen in the early years of the 21st. So in the mid-20th century, we had writers like Mulkraj Anand, Raja Rao, Ahmed Ali, and is very similar to, Nehru using English as well to write his nonfiction works. What might English give them that the Indian languages couldn't, not instead of, but alongside? And so I think we see that throughout the 20th century. I mean, we have, even in the late 20th century, something like Rushdie, obviously, who's experimenting and making this very kind of dense, like kind of difficult to read English. It doesn't feel like how anyone talks, but it feels like that's his point. And then you have someone like Amitav Ghosh, who's writing very clear, crystal clear, kind of perfect English. And so I don't think the relationship of English to Indian languages is settled. One thing I would say is we shouldn't just assume that it's only an elite practice. Yes, English is still a privileged language and has been in India for a long time. But the opposite, what is the authentic language that English is not? And I think that's where you start getting in trouble because, you think, oh, well, then is Hindi the authentic language of India? And we know, anyone who knows the history of Hindi knows that Hindi is not kind of authentic language. It was created in the 19th century in a very political way. As we know from the Northeast or the South, many people would not feel like Hindi is the true subaltern or authentic Indian language. So then what is? And I would say that all of the languages of India, the written languages, but also the oral languages, have to be thought of as a kind of rich multilingual sphere. I think there's a lot of experiment. I think we really see that in the 21st century, where you have, first of all, just an expanded idea of who can read English. You also have a simplification of English in order to access those readers. And an author like Anuja Chauhan, I think, is a great example in the sense that because she writes different Indian accents on the page, there's a moment when you read her book, you're reading in English and there's a word you can't recognize for a second. And then you realize, oh, this is how it sounds. Bringing regional sound to English writing. She's reminding us that English is oral and it's spoken in a lot of different ways and a lot of lovely ways that we often don't see in the literary context. So I would say that what the 19th century writers started is an ongoing kind of wonderful experimentation with the English language in literature.